Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be going through arrays. Now in our last video we went through our third and final video on loops, which was the for loop, but today we're going to be covering something a little bit different. So you would have seen us creating variables before and setting them to an integer or a string. Now an integer or a string, we can refer to these as data types. But there's also something else we can create, and they're called data structures. And similar to an integer or a string being a data type, an array is a type of data structure. So I'm just going to start off by calling my file array.js, and we're going to go through a really basic, simple example of how we can use arrays. So similar to how we would define a normal variable, we define it by saying either let or const, and then we pick a name. So we could call it nums or num. I'm going to set it to num for now, and I'm just going to set it to a normal number. So this isn't anything got to do with arrays just yet. This is just me setting this num to a normal number. And I'm going to console log our num variable, and I'm just going to go and print it out. And when I run this, we can see that we get the number 9 displayed out here. So this should be something that we're very familiar with and comfortable with at the moment. So now I'm going to change this into an array. And an array uses square brackets, and we can find the square brackets on our keyboard over on the right hand side, close to or just above the enter key. Now, if we want to use these square brackets, we want to put them after our equal sign. So in this example, I'm going to get rid of the number 9 and I'm going to put in 2 square brackets. Now, within these square brackets, we can populate our data structure with many different data types. So for example, let's say before, if we wanted to, collect the ages of a couple of different people, we would have to create a variable and call it maybe age 1 and then possibly another age 2 variable, and then we would place the two numbers into these variables. But with an array we can put these together. So let's say we put the age 24 and 25 into our array. And just so there's no confusion, we can change our variable name from num to age because it makes a little bit more sense. And if we go and run this, we can now see two integers or two numbers being displayed out, and we can see they're held within these square brackets. So that's good. Let's add another couple of elements to our age array, and maybe we'll call this ages. We'll put an S at the end, and we'll put in some other ages in here. Okay, so now we've got a few more ages. Just put a space there, keep it consistent, and we're going to go and print out this again. So just run this and we can see that the numbers that we have added to our array is printed out here. Now, arrays are really handy when you want to go and store a lot of information in the one variable. For example, you might have a list of ages. All these ages share something in common. So for example, this might be the ages of all the people in your house or something like that. So you could change this array to put whatever ages you want. You might want to represent the ages of all the people that live in your house, or maybe all the ages of the people that are in your school, or whatever you want to do. And let's say, for example, you wanted to access one of these numbers, right? So we know that we've got our ages variable here, and it's set to all these numbers. And we know that we're printing out, or we're console logging all the ages using this statement, but we can actually access one individual element if we want. And we can do this by putting two square brackets, and inside the square brackets we put what number we want, and this number we call an index. So let's say you could put maybe 1 or 2 or 3 here, and you would get 1, 2, or 3. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is when we use arrays, let's say we put the number 1 in here and then we go and run this. We can see the number 24 being displayed, and you might be thinking, why is 24 being displayed when I put 1 in here? I want to see the first element or the first number in my array. Well, the thing about arrays is they're kind of funny in a way, because they don't actually start counting at the number 1 like we usually start counting at. They actually start counting at the number 0. So if you wanted the 5th element, let's say, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want this number here, which is 43, you would actually put in 4. So you'd put in 1 less than what you would want. And then if you go and run this, we can see that we get the number 43. And if you wanted to get the first element or the first number, you would put in the number 0 here. And if we run this, we can see now we get 25. And another thing to keep in mind, at the moment I've got all numbers in my array, but there's nothing stopping me from removing one of these numbers and replacing it with a string, or just adding a string to the end here. So for example, let's take away the 24 and let's put in a string, and we just put in our string as Ryan, and now we want to go and access the second element. So rather than putting 2, we have to take 1 away from it. So we put 1 in here, and now if we run this, we should see our second element, and our second element is Ryan. So if we go and run this, you can see that Ryan is displayed. Arrays are really useful, and they can be used for many different things. They're probably the most popular data structure that we use in computer science. We also have another data structure called an object that we can use as well, and I'll be discussing how we can use objects in the next video.